Greetings, my fellow free blood sovereign thinkers. This is LO3's Viewers Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Sunday, April 22nd, 2018. Yeah, I made a little investment. Got myself a little 11 notebook. Pretty cool. Started out. And testing it, see how it is. And hopefully get a good signal out of it. So it's all well and good. It's Sunday morning right now along the new river of Fort Lauderdale. Kicking back. Pretty warm. And just hanging out by the river, man. Peace and quiet. Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting stuff that's been happening. And I've been got notified by a friend of mine on the Broward Sheriff's BSO Association, which is the deputies union for the Broward Sheriff's Office, is planning to do a no confidence vote on Sheriff Scott Israel. And it's interesting because it's more than just Parkland. It's based on his other checkered ordeals and getting kickbacks allegedly. And this is why I've been telling people for a long time, people that know me on the streets, I said he's a major conflict of interest due to the fact that he's a member of Homeland Security. And I talked about that a while back on the Parkland shootings. And of course, his biggest mistake was witch hunting the National Rough Association and tossing Peterson under the bus. Well, a lot of stuff has been occurring, and even there's a manual for it as well, and it's still going. So, a lot of controversy right now with this man, and of course the Broward School Board as well, with $100 million of assets or funding, which hasn't been used. So, who benefits us the most, right? So, I'm going to be talking about that and a few other things as well. Maybe a couple. But first, I'm going to be addressing which came out yesterday. The Newsbud exclusive is by Kurt Nemo, and if you want to read the entire article, I recommend folks just go to Newsbud, be a subscriber. It's really good stuff. So, hey, check this out. It says here, State Department lies about Hezbollah and Iran on the anniversary of Beirut embassy bombing. On April 18th, Heather Newberg, former Fox News host and current State Department spokesperson, resurrected the unproven allegation that Hezbollah was behind the 1983 attack on the U.S. Embassy in Beirut, Lebanon, that killed 63 people, including embassy staff and CIA personnel. As we honor and remember the victims, we remain committed to confronting this terrorist organization and its backers, Iran, denying its resources and bringing its leaders and operatives to justice, Newberg said in a tweet. So now he's saying, now if you really pay attention, folks, that would be the thing of going after Iran. One of the reasons, remember what happened in Beirut. Okay, it's during the Reagan administration, of course, and he actually took his troops home from that jurisdiction. But now they're going to use this as a vengeance that happened almost 30 some odd years ago. Something to think about, right? Absolutely. The problem with this accusation, as with many accusations made by the U.S. government as of late, there is no evidence Hezbollah was responsible for the attack or the suicide bombing of the Marine barracks that same year. In regard to the suicide bombing of the barracks, the U.S. Secretary of Defense at the time, Casper Weinberger, told PBS 2 decades later, we still do not have the actual knowledge of who did the bombing of the Marine barracks at the Beirut airport. We certainly didn't then. Hezbollah didn't exist in 1983 and wouldn't for another 2 years. But this inconvenient fact does not stand in the way of the Hezbollah's accusers. They argue Hezbollah's precursor organizations were responsible, although there is zero evidence of this, and the accusers make no attempt to provide any. How nice, right? Absolutely. And it's one of those things, my friends, this post-fact world. We say so because we know more than all you think bears out there. If you question us, you are a traitor. That's what they want you to believe, right? Please spare me the moment. It can be argued, however, the U.S. intervention in the Lebanese Civil War is in part responsible for the rise of radical and violent Islamic groups opposed to the U.S. presence in Lebanon and the Israeli invasion of the country. Additionally, the Israeli war on the Palestinians was the spark that ignited the civil war in Lebanon. Ethnic cleansing by the Israelis resulted in a large refugee population in Lebanon. The presence of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, the PLO, essentially the Palestinian government in exile, created tension between Maronite Catholics, represented by the Falangists, modeled after Spanish Falange, and Italian fascist parties, and radicalized largely Islamic Palestinians. Hey, let's just use them as our pawns, right? The PLO leader Yasser Arafat transferred operations from Jordan to Lebanon after Jordanian King Hussein attacked the Palestinians during the Black September conflict. Tension broke out into open conflict in Beirut on April 13, 1975, when gunmen killed Phalangists while attempting to assassinate Pierre Gemayel. Alright, so something to check out. The founder of the Khatib, or the Falangist Party. The Falangists retaliated by attacking a bus carrying Palestinians through a Christian neighborhood, killing 26 people. In 1982, Israel invaded Lebanon under the Orwellian code name Operation Peace for Galilee, as Nasser H. Aruri writes in the foreword to Livia Rakash, Israel's Sacred Terrorism. The invasion of Lebanon was calculated to produce results deemed beneficial both to American strategic interests and to Israeli expansionist goals. Allah, the greater Israel project, right? Exactly. The interest of the Reagan administration in Israel's Likud government coalesces around three objectives: the destruction of the Palestinian infrastructure in Lebanon, the redrawing of the political map in Lebanon, and the reduction of Syria to manageable proportions. These objectives were in part put in motion by the United Nations Authorized Multinational Force, or MNF, in Lebanon, and the World's Police proposal by the Joint Chiefs for the U.S. participation in the MNF that included sending to 63,000 U.S. troops to Lebanon to disarm the militias and enforce the peace. The Reagan doctrine in regard to Lebanon was exercised in futility, as Weinberger admitted. What we need is a multinational force until certain conditions have been achieved. Nobody knows when those conditions can be achieved. It is not an open-ended commitment, he said. In October 1983, allegedly in response to the killings of 5 U.S. Marines in 3 separate instances, following the bombing of the U.S. Embassy, Reagan ordered the USS New Jersey to launch attacks against Druze militia and Syrian forces in the Shoah Mountains south of Beirut, the largest shore bombardment since the Korean War. The 16-inch guns aboard the New Jersey, the Navy said, would send payloads size of Volkswagens to clear areas as big as football fields. Right, Charlie Glass. Hundreds of Druze and Shiites died during repeated volleys fired by the battleship parked in the Mediterranean. The biggest military mistake the Americans made in Lebanon was to use in New Jersey. Marine Colonel Don Price found that many of the ship's shells had missed their targets by as much as 10,000 yards, as resulted in large collateral damage to innocent civilians. Colin Powell, at the time U.S. General and Assistant to Defense Secretary Weinberger, wrote in his memoirs that when the shells started falling on the Shiites, they assumed the American referee had taken sides. As noted, Hezbollah came together in 1985, not in 1983, in response to the Israeli occupation of southern Lebanon, caught in the middle where the Shari, writes Donald Neff, after Israeli troops moved into the area full-time in 1978 and treated the Shiite with much of the same hatred as it did the Palestinians. The Shia became fearsome foes of both Israel and the United States. Hezbollah considered Israel a U.S. client state in the Middle East, and in a statement issued in 1985, the organization said the root of vice is America, and Israel, the American spearhead in the Islamic world, must be wiped out. All plans, including even tacit recognition of the Zionist entity, are rejected. The intransigence firmly planted with the Lebanese Shiite community following multiple Israeli invasions of Lebanon and the mistreating of not only Shiites but all Muslims, in particular the Palestinian community, has resulted in political stalemate and continued conflict. The United States continued to use a natural alliance between Iran and Hezbollah. Both are Shiite, and its ongoing propaganda war against Iran. Despite facts to the contrary, the U.S. has characterized Iran as the world's most prolific supporter of international terrorism. But if you go over there, it's exceptional. Prior to December 11th, National Counterterrorism Director Nicholas J. Rasmussen declared last October, "I think everybody knows Hezbollah was responsible for the terrorism-related deaths of more U.S. citizens than any other foreign country terrorist organization. This, to at the least, an absurd accusation, according to the 2014 Institute for Economics and Peace Global Terrorism Index. 2/3 of those who died in the terrorist attacks in 2013 were killed by militants from just 4 groups: the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and Boko Haram. These are Sunni terrorist groups, specifically followers of Sunni Salafi Islam sponsored by Saudi Arabia, and not Shia, as Rasmussen and the State Department, under the leadership of the Trump administration, insist." To all you Trump supporters, oh yes, he's our guy. Moreover, according to Robert A. Pape at the University of Chicago's Project on Security and Terrorism, over 90% of suicide attacks worldwide are now anti-American. The vast majority of suicide terrorists hail from the local regions threatened by foreign troops. A common complaint of those responsible for terrorist attacks in America is targeting of Muslim populations by the United States. This was the case with Omar Mateen, the mentally ill homophobic terrorist who killed 49 people at a Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida in 2016. Heavily redacted transcripts of his 911 calls during his attack noted his opposition to U.S. military intervention in Iraq and Syria. Omar Mateen's life as an Afghan American living in New York City and Orlando, Florida, was heavily influenced by the continuing U.S. support for Wahhabi terrorism and extremism around the world. His horrendous terror attacks and hate crime is continuing consequences of these disastrous policies, writes Caleb Mupin. Hezbollah and Iran, while certainly fundamentalist Muslim, are not the primary source of Islamic terrorism. Saudi Arabia and its violent, intolerant, and murderous proxies are. Heather Newert, vastly incorrect pronouncements. It is unclear if she actually believes the lies created by the State Department serve to feed the ongoing and open-ended war on terror now targeting Syria and Iran. If Mike Pompeo is confirmed as Secretary of State, we can expect the propaganda war against Iran and Hezbollah to gain momentum, a prospect that has potentially disastrous implications now that Trump is taking foreign policy advice from a top-level neocon, John Bolton. Absolutely. How dangerous this rabbit hole can be? Very treacherous indeed. So that's the goal. Syria and Iran are next. General Wesley Clark talked about that on the station from Democracy Now! Type it in, look it up. How things can be planned. And this is why, like I said before, the United States has to change its foreign policy. Tell the politicians and Israel, we don't need your advice. John Jay discussed that about foreign influences is bad for our young nation. Federalist Papers 2 through 5. Definitely look that up. But like I said, Heather Nersworth, she's just one of those bell girls, beep beep bone fetchers, in my opinion. Another drone, puppetized drone. So that's all I gotta say is cut the empire off our platform immediately, because then it gets blowback and they say, oh, they said we got attacked it because of our freedoms, like they did on September 11, 2001, friends. Something to think about. Yes, sir. All right. Well, next thing I'm going to be doing, will be from, hold on here, let me just check this out. Yeah, right there. Okay, good. All right, I'm going to be checking this out here. Next one here came from Zero Hedge by Blacklisted News. Thank you, Doug Owen. Hopefully you had a great birthday a while back. You help and make sure your family's doing well. It's interesting here, Eric Holder, the man who pardoned Wall Street, may run for president. Please watch it, buddy. We know you're a treasonous parasite. Okay, but enough of that. It says here, Broward Sheriff Israel to face no confidence vote for suspected malfeasance. Zero Hedge did this originally. It says here the Broward County Sheriff's Office Deputies Association has scheduled a no confidence vote for Sheriff Scott Israel for many instances of suspected malfeasance, among several claims that his conduct leading up to and following the February 14th Parkland school shooting. Union President Deputy Jeff Bell announced the coming vote on Friday. A vote. Florida Governor Rick Scott can fire Israel for misfeasance, negligence of duty, or incompetence. But he's a flip-flopping douchebag, right? Flip-flopper Scott. To end that, Israel is accused by the association for many instances of suspected malfeasance, misfeasance, failed to maintain fiduciary responsibility by the sheriff, failed to properly investigate possible criminal conduct by members of his senior command staff, and the lack of leadership that has crushed morale throughout the agency. Seems like the Deputies Association is about to give Governor Scott exactly what he needs to get rid of Israel, right down to the official language. While multiple agencies failed in the lead up to the Parkland shooting, the Broward County Sheriff's Department, led by Sheriff Israel, has directly interfaced and self-confessed killer Nicholas Cruz, receiving nearly 50 calls about him. Of course, these calls for service detail on the photo shooter are extremely troubling. It's by Rob O'Donnell, which he was on the Twitter page. That happened on February 23rd. Perhaps Resource Officer Scott Peterson, the deputy who ran from the shooting, failed to commit Cruz for mental evaluation under Florida's Baker Act. And just interesting there, because there's a video of this, of them interesting where the deputies are. Yeah, when the deputies are looking around. So it's pretty interesting here. You can watch that video. And of course here, Broward Sheriff's Office released security video showing Deputy Scott Peterson actions during the Florida February 14th shooting. He was on his radio, and I don't know what happened there. It's just very awkward indeed. It's just a little over 2 minutes 20 seconds long. And a golf cart and all that. Something strange, right? Very, very strange. It's interesting because Parkland, Stoneman High School, Stoneman Douglas High School was Douglas Stoneman High School was they don't have lockers. Israel has refused to take responsibility for his behavior before or after the shooting. Under call to resign, the sheriff said, "I gave him a gun, I gave him a badge, I gave him the training. If you didn't have the heart to go in, that's not my responsibility, said Israel appears to failure to face crews during the shooting. Of course, you can hear that from his rhetoric. And you know how he is. He's I'm not gonna. I heard it enough times. Of course, Eric Glover refused to resign, telling as he went on an interview, and of course, says here, as Ben Dominic of the Federalist noted in February, when Israel was accused of corruption in the past, he responded to paraphrase quote from Game of Thrones: "Lions don't care about the opinions of sheep." Yeah, see, he believes he's the master. I call him the masturbator, to be exact. See, that is one big turnoff. As I said, the matter of corruption, though, is illuminating. Essentially, it amounts to Israel's use of the Broward County office as a patronage program, hiring unqualified political allies for cushy county public relations jobs from the Federalists, and of course from the Sun Sentinel. There's links on here, if I'm correct. You can see it. You can see it for yourself. The outreach workers who mainly attend the community events are an additional to political activists and others Israel's hired into community affair roles, writing and designing printed pieces about the agency and sharing it on social media. The employer log shows 6 hired into public affairs roles, salaries totaling $388,729. How nice is that? Divide it into 6. All you gotta do is say, wow. Absolutely. Israel's opponent says he's built a publicly funded political machine, paying back supporters with jobs and using them to keep him in office. They say the money could be better spent, particularly after the sheriff complained about not having enough funding to secure the county courthouse where the murder suspect recently escaped. Israel was also accused of taking donations from a convicted felon in the Cuban mafia. Israel was criticized in 2014 after the Political Action Committee supporting his re-election campaign for sheriff accepted thousands of dollars in donations from a convicted felon. The donor, Yoram Isaac, was indicted for allegedly being part of an organized crime ring known as the Cuban Mafia that was allegedly involved in cocaine trafficking, arson, gambling, and murder, according to Local 10 or WPLG. Yeah, something that's really fascinating, right? What do you guys say about that? Oh, boom! I'm gonna say it right here. So we'll go on here. Of course, it's him with Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders and CFR scumbag Joe Biden. And of course, there's Renzi, whatever that superintendent goofball. And of course, Laura Loomer, having noticed the Broward Sheriff's Office has been spewing Democrat gun control talking points. Well, it turns out the sheriff has some interesting friends. And there's some photos on here. Got dumbed down Debbie Wasserman Schultz. All the trees is quacks, the enemies of freedom, including Bernie Sanders. Between Israel's checker past and his conduct surrounding the Parkland massacre, it appears that the Deputies Association is paving the way for a new sheriff to take the helm in Broward County. And what's interesting about that, because even if you do a no confidence vote, they can try to send it to Tallahassee to see if Governor Rick Scott can fire him. Well, I can say this: people got to take the initiative and do the petition drive in Broward County on recalling him, do a recall vote. That's my other option. You can keep that option open as well. I wouldn't be surprised if folks are ready to go. Now they got some ammunition, they could add that to the petition on the recall vote on Sheriff Scott Israel. One way or the other, I support it. His biggest mistake was witch hunting. Okay, that is his stupidity, ignorance, and believe the people in Broward are too damn dumb to think for themselves. I say to Sheriff Scott Israel, you are not my sheriff, you treasonous SOB. Benedict Arnold had a bigger set of testicular fortitude than you will ever have. You manless wonder. Manless chump. You're That's how I look at this guy. Based on his actions, the man's a chump. Hate saying it, but you choose your actions poorly. Now you want to put for something I should be punished for. The hell with you. You need to get the hell out of Broward County and the state of Florida. Go contaminate space somewhere else, because you're not my sheriff. Plain and simple. And I don't give a damn if you like it or not. Yes, I know I get a little groggy here. Forgive me, friends. I want to do one more. Speaking of Bernie Sanders, feel the hype. We hate freedom, but we want free stuff. And it's from the American Thinker, came out a couple of days ago. It says Bernie Sanders is out to punish states that refuse pot legalization. Another one who hates states' rights. This is by Monica Showalter. At the commie he is, Bernie Sanders likes coercion. His latest coercive scheme in his new proposed launch to punish states that resist marijuana legalization. See, it's called a blackmailer. All right, let's keep on going here. So much for laboratory of the states, which is the idea that each state should be free to do what the voters want and let the results speak for themselves. Bernie doesn't like the laboratory of the states. He is all for central planning, same as what was done by the Soviet Moscow of his honeymoon. Here's Bernie's new scheme, as reported by Forbes. Several potential rival presidential candidates are teaming up on a legislation to end the federal war on marijuana. On Thursday, U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders, independent from Vermont, is signing on a co-sponsor of the Marijuana Justice Act introduced last year by Senator Cory Booker, Democrat from New Jersey. Another freedom-hating sap. I'll continue on here. Many political observers expect that Booker and Sanders will compete for the national presidential nomination in 2020. Senator Christine Gillibrand, Democrat from New York, another rumored contender, is also a co-sponsor of the bill. Although the three senators may be just months away from the start of a hard-fought political nominating contest, they are linking in arms in support for the most far-reaching cannabis reform bill ever to have been filed in Congress. What's infuriating about this is that it foists punishment on states that just don't want pot creating problems in their communities, while doing zero to take responsibility for the inviolable bad side effects of pot use. They should be free to decide whether or not having to bust techies and hipsters and hippies outweighs the cost of medical rehab. The specter of the pot left lying around the playgrounds, toddlers who accidentally ingest being rushed into emergency rooms, highways getting more hazardous because of increased DUI, gateway drugs risk going up, meaning more addicts, the effect of secondhand pot smoke on babies as pot smoke drifts into their apartments, and the schizophrenia risk. Sorry about that. I'm just like, schizophrenia risk to some young men who toke up, which costs the state as big as white coats are called to move in. There's also inviolable homelessness and broken up families derived from pot, whose costs are hard to calculate. States are to be forced to pick up the tab for all those little pot plagues. If Bernie gets his way, he's never been big on anyone in government paying attention to costs. Forbes notes that Bill is highly connected to the next presidential race, with multiple potential Democratic candidates joining the sponsorship as they focus on winning the youth vote. But the bill also highlights something else going on. Pot is getting politically powerful. A bill like this shows that live and let live among the pro-pot and anti-pot states is never going to satisfy the left. It's enough to let each state decide. Post must be affirmed as a positive thing regardless of its societal side effects. Pot manufacturers whine that they lack advertising and banking opportunities, limited because federal law still prohibits pot use, as these institutions don't want to get crosswise with the feds. So there's a little fear factor there too. But even there, they enjoy privileges. In advertising, for instance, pot sellers are free to advertise their wares on billboards, while cigarette manufacturers are not. Cigarettes are more risky than pot. Don't think so. What you're seeing is a political lobby. Bernie is riding that wave, anxious to scoop up more youth votes. Color me unimpressed. And a person like myself, I do support ending the prohibition of marijuana in good faith. And I believe the state should make that decision. Nothing wrong with that. Of course, you got to look at everything in the bigger picture, the pros and cons. The people got to take responsibility for their actions, DUI, etc. And remember, government gets their sticky fingers. And what's interesting, what I find here, it reminds me of when the Brittle law got passed, and of course there was language in there that the states have to honor it. Use their own monies. So I do see an encroachment on the rights of the states, which is unconstitutional, and Federalist Papers 46 written by James Madison talked about that as well. So expect that to be thrown into the gauntlet if they try to challenge the states, if they don't want marijuana, recreational marijuana, in their jurisdiction, which they are entitled to do. So don't jump in that bandwagon, folks. Because Bernie Sanders, if he's going to use that to get votes on the youth, you'll be entrapping yourself if you fall for the hype. Okay? That's how I see him. Plain and simple. And that is it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share throughout your social media network. If you have any questions, comments, or you may send something that's interesting you may want to check out, whatever you do, please address your correspondence with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Minds.com, FutureNet.club, Patreon.com/LuckyLuck3 with 3 eyes. If you're going to be a donor, patron, etc., hit me at Gab, which is gab.ai. In addition, you can email me at LuckyLuck3@gmail.com, or to you encrypted ones that have a Proton Mail account, LuckyLuck03@ProtonMail.com. Wow, that is it. Once again, thank you for your time. But always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.